Hey everyone, welcome back to the tie-dye video series. Today we are going to be bringing back those shirts that we reverse tie-dyed with bleach last week. We are actually going to be putting colored dye over top of that bleach. I am currently reusing tulip dye bottles and filling them partially full with water, but not all the way to the line. As you can see here, I've left a good amount of space so that we can pour in RIT dye mix. Most people will mix RIT dye in like a big bucket, but we don't need nearly that much dye. So I am just filling these with water, and then I'm going to add some of that RIT dye to these bottles individually. It's not an exact science, but you can add a little bit of a time until you get the color that you desire. An important note for today is that if you have bleached these shirts recently, please make sure that you've washed them really well. You're going to want to make sure that you've gotten all of that bleach out. You may have wanted to have rinsed them really well and then washed them once or twice. I must not have gotten all of the bleach out of mine because my color looks really strong in some of the pictures, but it didn't stay as well as I would have hoped because there was still some bleach there. As you can see here, I'm using neon yellow, neon green, and then tangerine orange on this shirt. For the most part, I just took the dye and poured it into the bottle and filled it up to the line where you normally would fill from water if you had the powder, if you were making the dye from the Tulip brand box. Then make sure you cover that and shake it up. You don't have to shake it nearly as much as you normally would with powder because it's already in liquid form. Now I'm mixing colors for the other shirt I will be dyeing that was also from the reverse tie-dye video. It was supposed to be a galaxy theme, so I started with some blues and teals and purples and greens. As you'll see later in the video, I decided I didn't like it very much and added some other colors in, such as pink and yellow, and I even used a little bit of black in there as well. But it turned out really cool. I promise it'll be great when you see it at the end. Alright, and this here is the black dye that I mentioned. It is still Tulip brand. It's the powder. I hadn't used it before, so I still had it left over from a previous dye project, and I just filled it with water and shook it up like you would any other tulip dye you would normally use. So I had a couple different shades of blue and a teal, and I wanted to see exactly what color I had in my bottle. I wanted to see which one I liked the best, which ones were lighter and darker, and so I could tell the difference between each of them, so I knew which one I was using. I wanted to put it on something that showed it really well, so I just used some paper towel that I've been using to keep my hands clean, and just put a little bit on there so you can see the color difference. As you can see, some of those colors were similar and one was much, much darker. Because I didn't really like it, I filled a little bit more of that color in to that bottle specifically with the teal to try and give me more of what I would consider a teal color. It didn't go as well as I had liked, but it still looked pretty good. Time to get started on that first shirt. So this was done with just a spiral and bleach. As you can see, it was a black shirt to start. And this is pretty simple. We aren't going to be using any rubber bands. We're not going to be tying anything up or arranging the shirt in any certain way. We're just going to lay it flat. I am just adding dye into the white space on that shirt and hoping that it takes as well as I want it to. I started with the orange and kind of tried to spread it. I had a little bit too much in one spot. This will leak through your shirt, but that's not a big deal. You'll probably have to flip your shirt over at the end anyways and add dye into some of the white spaces on the back. It doesn't always match up 100% perfect unless you aren't looking for complete saturation. Please keep in mind when you're doing this that this will definitely be messy, and if you don't want dye on your hands, you're going to want to wear gloves. And we have a tablecloth down on our plastic table that we are using outside in the grass so that we don't ruin anything indoors. And as you can see, I'm wearing a shirt that I had tie-dyed previously. It was one that didn't turn out as well as I wanted, and I just kind of played with it. And so it's my new dye shirt so that I don't ruin any of my good clothes. Just another quick tidbit reminder is that this does use quite a bit of dye. You're going to be using almost the whole bottle, if not the whole bottle of each color, depending on how much white space you have on the shirt and how much of it you want to be completely saturated with color and how much of it you want that bleach white-ish color to show through. As you can see, I'm cleaning the table so that I don't get too much color spread out, and we've got that one side completely orange, and I am going to move on to my next color. I am going to be using that neon yellow right in the center of the shirt. Alright, I am now on to the last color for this shirt. I am dyeing the last side of the shirt green. It is that neon green I showed you in the beginning. And now we're on to the second shirt. This was a shirt that I tried to do a galaxy scene and the bleach did not work for me, so I ended up just splattering it all over the place. And it is kind of out there and crazy, but it looks really cool when we're done. different swirls and shapes in the white space, but be careful when using black. As you can see right here, I got covered in black dye, which is why you should wear gloves if you don't want to have black dye on your hands. While making these designs, I didn't have any rhyme or reason to it. I just put it where I felt like it looked good. So I have some lines, and here I start to make some wiggles, and I even put some spirals in there in different places. It's not exactly the same color as the black of the t-shirt material, but it definitely gave a cool look once I put colored dye over top of that. Dyeing this shirt took a ton of dye, and it also took a lot of time. It actually took my grandma and I about an hour together to fill in all those little speckled spaces that were bleached. But in the end, it looks pretty cool. Here's the shirt before it was rinsed. It took a lot of time, but has lots of really neat colors in it. And then here's the spiral after it had been rinsed out, but not washed. And here is my attempt at a galaxy. It kind of looks like a splatter paint, but it looks pretty cool in my opinion.